Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Rebirth of the Red Dragon. Self-discipline becomes stronger. Chapter 31. The Dune attacker reminded Peeps next to him. Peeps looked at the green desert forest, which was a rare treasure in the desert. Send 2 companions to investigate, Peeps said. Although I have to take a risk, I can't mess around. What if you get annihilated by the big octopus? The attacker elite nodded, and led a partner into the ground, heading for the desert woods. Desert woods. The smelly octopus is gone, the scout attacker said. Look more clearly, what if he is looking at us secretly? The elite raiders are more cautious, this time the mission must be careful, or the Blade tribe will disappear into the Death Desert. Look there, the scout attacker looked ahead with wide eyes. What? The attacker elite looked suspiciously at the scout, but what did he see? White, tender and delicious human. At this time, Olenna was walking barefoot by the lake, sitting down and fiddled with the spray from time to time. Don't look at her calmness now, in fact, her legs couldn't help shaking. Secretly, Big Brother, are you sure that the group of attackers will be fooled for such an obvious trap? Katrina whispered in Shilin's ear. Of course, don't underestimate the greed of the beast. Shilin and the others had already noticed the attacker hiding in the ground. Underground. It's so fragrant, or let's eat them here. The scout attackers all wanted to embezzle the human in front of them first. As for the tribe, I will leave it behind for now. Stupid. What if the opponent is a powerful magician? Raider elites are a little more cautious. Among human beings, they are the easiest group to give birth to strong people, because they have too many people. It doesn't look like it. The scout attacker blinked. The Olenna in front of her looked like a harmless human being, how could she be a magician? Besides, wouldn't it be said that all human magicians would take a small wooden stick? Let's go back and report to the leader, let the leader decide. The elite attackers left here with the scouts. Secretly. The fish got the bait, Shilin's mouth formed an arc, isn't this just a bait? Outside, what's the situation inside? Peeps hurriedly asked when his companion came back. Boss, the big octopus inside is gone, but there is an extra human girl. The attacker elite told Peeps the truth, and did not tell Peeps about what the scouts just wanted to embezzle. The current Blade tribe cannot have any fluctuations. The big octopus is gone, there is one more human. Peeps frowned. He hadn't heard of octopuses transforming into humans. I have heard that real dragons can become humans since childhood. However, true dragons cannot appear in the Death Desert. The last story about the dragon was more than 100 years ago. Go. Let's go in and take a look. Peeps gave the order directly, and it was necessary for the Blade tribe to try its best. Desert woods. A large group of sand dune attackers entered the forest, and the originally flat ground became a bit uneven. As soon as he dived into the desert woods, Peeps saw the little human girl he was talking about. The great god of Kogas is here. Bless your loyal followers, the Blade tribe, this time, returning home with great success. Peeps began to pray to the gods above his head, hoping that this time they would be safe. When the blessing was over, Peeps's eyes turned sharp, no matter what it is this time. It can't stop the Blade tribe. Blade tribe, immortal forever, even if the dragon is in front of us, it will only be eaten. The voice just fell. Peeps led the whole body of the tribe and said, Smelly octopus. Come out for me. What? Olenna was taken aback when she saw an ugly creature like Peeps, and hurriedly turned and ran away. Leader us. The other attackers stared at Olenna's back, and their saliva had already flowed to the ground. But Peeps hasn't given an order for a long time, and these subordinates dare not rush forward. Chase. Peeps repeatedly confirmed that the big octopus seemed to be away, and led the horde towards Olenna. Woohoo! I'm here. Fresh and juicy humans. It's dinner. It's dinner. Go. The attackers are crazy, they have been suppressed for too long. Boom. At this moment, a large tentacle more than 100 meters long slammed in front of them, blocking their way. It set off a thick dust. Big octopus, it really is your trap. Peeps looked around, and the escape route behind him was also blocked by Akfar's tentacles. The current Blade tribe was completely surrounded by Akef's tentacles. Fortunately, they will burrow into the ground, so there is nothing to worry about too much. Smelly octopus. The desert forest was originally our territory, you have taken it. Peeps yelled at Akfo, it was Akfo the robber who took this place. Originally, the Blade tribe relied on this desert forest to become a large tribe with a number of more than 1,000. In the end, who knew that there was a silently growing Akfor hiding in the lake? When Akfo developed to a certain level, he completely appeared and occupied this territory. Thousands of attackers in the Blade tribe couldn't stop Akfor, and the difference in strength was too great. After driving out of the desert woods, the number dropped sharply, reaching only more than 100 left. HMPH, a group of dirty creatures who only know that snails live in the soil. This time it is not me who is stopping you. It's the great true dragon. Akfor's swollen head gradually lowered, revealing Shilin and Catalina behind him. This is the dragon. When Peeps saw Shilin's dazzling figure, he almost knelt on the ground softly. How could a dragon appear here? The appearance of the dragon last time scared them very much, and the battle was furious. Let all creatures in the Death Desert remember the appearance of the dragon forever. And this time, the dragon appeared again. Even if the dragon in front of you is far from the dragon 100 years ago, it is also a dragon. Humble reptiles, what were you talking about just now? Does the dragon only have to be eaten in front of you? Every word of Shilin hit Peeps's heart directly, and the terrifying dragon power covered the audience. Even Akfor underneath almost knelt. This is Shilin's warning, this is the real red dragon's majesty, don't think carefully under his nose. Way, great dragon, you must have heard it wrong. Peeps was trembling in his 6 legs, and he just talked about it casually. How could there really be a giant dragon here? Where these birds don't shit, there are dragons coming. The Aloft Koga's god, you still joke with unbelievers like this. You got it wrong. It means you still question the dragon's ears. The flame in Shilin's eyes gradually jumped, and the light on his body became more dazzling, and it seemed that he had reached the edge of anger. No, no, no. Great dragon, it's not that you heard it wrong, but that my stinky mouth said the wrong thing. I hope you, a god on earth, can ignore this dirty bug of me. Peeps hurriedly changed his words. What Shilin said really scared him to pee on the spot. But the Blade tribe behind Peeps was all dumbfounded. Boss, where did your aura of slaying the dragon just now go? Didn't the Blade tribe always hang immortal? This seems to be destroyed soon. Forgive you. Are you reptiles planning to burrow and escape? Shilin saw through the sharp Blade tribe's intentions at a glance, and all of them were ready to escape. No, no, no. Great dragon, under your glorious gaze, who dared to run away? Peeps immediately sent a special signal, telling the Blade tribe not to think about running away. Fleeing in front of the dragon would definitely wipe out the entire army. No one knows what the dragon's abilities are, in case it was as terrible as it was 100 years ago. Yes, Shilin parachuted in front of Peeps, the huge dragon wings shrank, and the fire pupil stared at Peeps closely. Disgusting bugs, big brother, don't listen to them nonsense, they just insulted the dragon. Such bugs should be killed. No need to talk nonsense with them. It was the first time Catalina had a disgust for a creature, and it was the dune attacker who looked too disgusting. Having inherited Yinlong's aesthetics, Akfor reluctantly looked at it, and the group of sand dune attackers really couldn't stand it anymore. Brilliant gaze. Ha ha, you continue to say. Shilin smiled coldly. Although Red Dragon liked others to praise him very much, he was strictly a human in his previous life. Simply listen to praise for this kind of vanity, and if Daniel compliments him, he can smile. Peeps was a bit at a loss for a while. Didn't he say that dragons like him the most, don't praise him? This is different from what Grandpa said. Peeps' grandfather once followed a red dragon, and that dragon liked to compliment the most. In this regard, Peeps is also convinced. He didn't expect that it would be such a scene when facing a giant dragon today. Grandfather, it's so hard for you to lie to your grandson. What? Nothing to say. Shilin walked around Peeps with his huge body. This kind of bug person really resembles the big stag beetle of the previous life. Let me speak for you. My dragon doesn't like the praise of strangers, only the actual actions of strangers. Shilin stopped suddenly, and the burning longway tip was placed in front of Peeps. I understand, Your Majesty the Great Dragon. You are the lifelong pursuit of our Blade tribe. You are our new faith. We use our blood to build a real empire for you. Peeps quickly understood Shilin's meaning and knelt on the ground shivering. The Edge tribe behind him also knelt down under his instructions, and did not dare to move. Longwei has always been like a sharp sword hanging above his head. If he is not careful, his life will be taken away. Ha! The corner of Shilin's mouth rose slightly, and it seemed that the dragon's figure was really popular. Especially the Longwei who can face any creature without any disadvantage. Tell me, how long has your Blade tribe lived here? Shilin asked. Peeps said without thinking. It's been more than 500 years of life. More than 500 years. You seem to have just grown up. Shilin said, looking at Peeps. No, your Majesty, Red Dragon has misunderstood. The Blade tribe has indeed lived for more than 500 years. I am Peeps, the 6th leader. Peeps hurriedly said respectfully. It means that you are familiar with this Death Desert. A gleam of light flashed in Shilin's eyes. Perhaps the Blade tribe had heard of the Desert Palace. Familiar. That must be familiar. Your Majesty, the Great Red Dragon, there is nothing in the Death Desert that Peeps doesn't know. Peeps was overjoyed. Did the Red Dragon come to learn about the Death Desert? Then I am absolutely qualified to be this guide. The 500-year experience of the Blade tribe lies here, and who else knows the Death Desert better than me? Really? Then do you know the Desert Palace? Shilin looked at Peeps and said. Desert Palace. Peeps' pupils shrank in fear, as if seeing something frightening. What's wrong? Life has been for 500 years, even if you don't even know the Desert Palace. Shilin noticed the change in Peeps' eyes, as if that Desert Palace was a taboo. No, Red Dragon, I'm just surprised. A Red Dragon was looking for it 100 years ago. And depending on what you mean, are you also looking for the Desert Palace? Peeps thinks this is really a coincidence. Red Dragon, Shilin was a little puzzled. In addition to himself, did the dragon also see his scene? What happened is that it turned out to be a Red Dragon. Yes, the Desert Palace is a legend in our Death Desert. It is said that a long time ago, the Death Desert was not the land of the Western fantasy continent. It was originally the place where the gods live. The rumor is the back garden of the great god of death Thanatos, but the gods of the gods have a big battle. In an accident, the Death Desert was crushed by the gods and fell into the Western fantasy continent. And the Desert Palace is his wealth. As long as you find the Desert Palace, you can get the treasure of death over there. Many adventurers have been here since ancient times, and they all turned into bones. 100 years ago, a red dragon named Wings of the Scourge came here with an imperial army. After she heard the legend, she decided to look for the Desert Palace, but another group came and they had a big battle. Finally, the giant red dragon was defeated, and the Death Desert was quiet again. Peeps tells the story of what happened in the Death Desert. Among them, Shilin was very familiar with the Wings of the Scourge star. Isn't that the title of Danier? Big Brother, Wings of the Scourge seems to be the title of a mother. Katrina also understood the meaning of her mother calling them here, in order to find the treasure of death. Yeah, Shilin now thoroughly figured out why Danier called him to such a partner. It turned out to be a treasure. Still a treasure of death. Death is among the gods, that is also the upper-level gods, and Dragon Queen Tiamat was crushed by him. Even though Tiamat is the god of the five-color dragon, in fact, she is only at the upper-middle level in the ranking of gods. To put it plainly, Tiamat is a person with assets of just over 10 million, while Thanatos is a person with assets of over 100 million. There is no contrast between the two. Do you know how to find the Desert Palace? After Shilin asked this sentence, he wanted to take it back. If Peeps knew where the Desert Palace was, he would have swallowed the treasure of death a long time ago. Your Majesty Red Dragon, I don't know where the Desert Palace is, but I have a message about the Desert Palace. Peeps knew that this was his nomination for joining Shilin's family. News. Let's listen. Shilin didn't expect Peeps to give himself a surprise. I heard that the Desert Demon Girl has a broken map to go to the Desert Palace, maybe there is a breakthrough. Peeps said. Desert Demon Girl. Shilin had a headache when she heard that it was the Desert Demon Queen, but it was not that the Desert Demon Queen was very strong. Although the Demon Girl of the desert has good strength, in his eyes, the strength is not so good. What really troubled him was that the Desert Witch was that kind of creature that was hard to see, and she was so fascinating. And he was very, very cautious. After a fall, he would never go to that place again. It is almost impossible to expect to attract the desert demon to the desert woods. No matter how sweet and delicious Olena's meat is, the desert demon girl will never be fooled. The IQ of the demon girls in the desert is very high, and it is precisely because of this that they are capable of undead magic. Undead magic is recognized as the most troublesome, difficult and obscure. Power is also the most powerful, directly attacking the soul. It's a bug-level magic, but fortunately, there is also undead magic in the dragon's memory inheritance. It's just that undead magic is really hard to learn, even dragons are hard to learn. Even if you learn it, you don't use it frequently, and chanting that kind of complicated and obscure magic is not enough for Tathagata. Back to the topic, even if the desert demon girl is caught, it is impossible to determine if she has a broken map. Trouble is dead. Shilin felt troubled with things for the first time. Catalina saw Shilin's impatience, so she said, "Big brother, we can conquer the entire Death Desert first, and it's not too late to find the desert demon girl. The dragon has time. What if it took 100 years to conquer the desert? It is just a matter of sleep." After hearing this, Shilin nodded and said, "Well, first set a small goal to conquer this desert." "Peeps, I'll give you a task," Shilin said, looking down at Peeps. Peeps hurriedly got down and said excitedly, "You said, Your Majesty, the Great Red Dragon. The spring of the Blade tribe is finally here." Peeps believes that as long as he can follow Shilin well. Not to mention the restoration of the moment 500 years ago. One day, the Blade tribe can reach unprecedented heights. "How big is the Death Desert to you?" Shilin asked. Peeps heard Shilin's question a little bit of doubt, so he cautiously replied, "At present, the Blade tribe has not walked through the full picture of the Death Desert." "Well, I'll give you 1 month. I need a 500,000 square kilometer site." Shilin didn't embarrass Peeps too much. After all, there were only more than 100 members of the Blade tribe. "Relax, Your Majesty, the Great Red Dragon. Leave this small matter to our Blade tribe." Peeps was a bit embarrassed. 500,000 square kilometers is too big. It is basically impossible to do it with only 100 people. But when he thought that this was Shilin's first task, he had to complete it with all his might no matter what. "Very well, I am waiting for your good news. You can enjoy the food here. But at the price, if the site is not reached, then you will become the nourishment in my stomach." Shilin must give Peeps a warning. He will not have a good temper to face the loser. "Yes," Peeps gritted his teeth. "Isn't it 500,000 square kilometers? It's done." Seeing Peeps' determination, Shilin nodded in satisfaction. Now he needs to sleep for a month, and the power in his body has to be ascending to a height again. The usual little ascension does not need to sleep. But if it is a degree of ascension, it must be upgraded by sleeping. Otherwise, it is easy to lose a part of the power during the power ascension. With the center of the forest as its nest, the Blade tribe dug a natural underground palace for Shilin. And Shilin's huge body inhabited there, and the flames on his body shrank as he breathed. In this month, in order for Peeps to occupy so much territory as soon as possible. The first to bear the brunt is the other tribes of Dune Raiders. Those Dune Raiders have never seen the Blade tribe so crazy. Injury for injury. In the Death Desert, which is already barren, this is completely irrational. As a result, many Sand Dune Raider tribes directly took refuge in the Blade tribe. The other party eats and drinks well, and I heard that there is a dragon as a backing. And they can only eat sand, and then they'll fart and just take refuge. Anyway, the Blade tribe is not going to kill them, just to occupy a piece of land. As a result, more and more Sand Dune Raiders joined the Blade tribe, and the Blade tribe grew. From a tribal group with only 100 animals, it skyrocketed to 600 in half a month. The number of 600 is still rising, and it seems that it will not take long to break through the number of 1,000. The Blade tribes in the past did not dare to accept so many attackers even if they were trusted by others. After all, there are more people, and more expenses for the tribe. Food in particular is simply a scarce resource in the barren sand. But now these problems are easily solved. With the backing of desert forests, they have a steady flow of food. And Olena, the human, taught them how to breed horned lizards. Just by hunting, the horned lizard will soon disappear in this desert. So it must be controlled, and the horned lizards must be locked together. Let them multiply by themselves, and finally they can make progress gradually. Not only that, some strong horned lizards are also used as mounts by Peeps. In this month, the Blade tribe led by Peeps expanded the map to 800,000 square kilometers. Greatly exceeded the task given by Shilin. And Katarina is not idle, she will teach Olena some magic when she has time. In Katarina's view, how could the Red Dragon Empire have a vase? What she didn't know was that Olena was really the vase Shilin grabbed. The main thing is to study what this incarnation of the goddess of luck is. Longshay. A pair of scarlet pupils opened in the extremely dark cave, and the fire stands placed around them all burned at this moment. The violent and terrifying aura enveloped the entire dragon's lair, and the dragon's might spread around like a tide. For a while, all the creatures on the land were scared to lie on the ground motionless. Even the silver dragon Katarina was pressured to breathe hard. Roar. The owner of the desert forest has awakened. Host. Shilin. Creature. Red dragon, chaotic evil. Attack. 1000 ordinary young red dragon 300. Defense. 900 ordinary juvenile red dragon 200. Speed. 800 ordinary juvenile red dragon 150. Physique. 1100 ordinary juvenile red dragon 350. Items. Tiamat's dragon scales demigod, Uranus's hair demigod, Zeus's thunder and lightning demigod. Magic. 100 kinds of one-ring magic, 50 kinds of two-ring magic, 35 kinds of three-ring magic, 10 kinds of four-ring magic. Talent. Superb physique, half god level, breaking potential god level, proficient in magic, spirit level. Abilities. Bite, tear, fire breath, frost breath, lightning breath, poisonous mist breath, acid breath. Evaluation. Now you have reached the threshold of a young dragon, with the capital to become a god. Unexpectedly, the distance between the young dragon and the young dragon is so different. Shilin was secretly speechless when he saw the data. His previous data surpassed the ordinary young dragon by a large margin. As a result, the current data is still a short distance from the young dragon. Doesn't it mean that the young dragons above, and even the ancient dragons and Taiku dragons, will be more and more different? No wonder the memories of the dragon race are saying that a dragon has never succeeded in a leapfrog challenge. At this time, Shilin thought of fries in Felicia's mouth. He had dared to challenge Denier of Ji Yulong when he had just grown into a dragon. He was really lucky not to die. It's been a month now, and I don't know how Peeps has expanded its territory. Shilin muttered in his heart. Because I was sleeping deeply, I didn't know anything about the outside. Big brother. At this moment, Katarina happily ran into the dragon's den. Hearing the first thing Shilin awakened, he went into the dragon's den without stopping. Wow, what's the situation now? Shilin breathed a sigh of relief, the fire dragon scales on his body getting more and more dazzling. After sleeping for a month, it only grew 2 meters. I thought it could grow at least 10 meters. Big brother, you didn't make a mistake about Peeps. It took him a month. Successfully laid down an area of 800,000 square kilometers, in which a new desert forest was accidentally discovered. The number of blade tribes has exceeded 1,000, including newborn cubs. By the way, big brother, I also taught Olena how to use magic. At this moment, Katarina said, the tail of the dragon behind her was shaking. It's like a puppy, hurry up. Praise me, Arena, why did you give her the magic? Shilin didn't expect Katarina to teach Olena magic in leisure. Isn't Catalina usually disgusted with Olena? This is the big brother. As the Red Dragon Empire you built, how can you nourish idlers? So I thought about it, and taught Olena a few common little magic, but she turned out to be quite talented, and she learned all of them. Katarina was also a little surprised by Olena's magical talent. Ordinary people need to learn one circle of magic for about 1 week. And Olena took only 1 hour, although she was not very skilled, she did learn it. Yes, Shilin raised her eyebrows. Olena was the incarnation of goddess of luck, and her magical talent would not be much worse. This is no surprise. However, Peeps expanded an area of 800,000 square kilometers, which surprised him a bit. Another desert forest was also discovered, which is an important resource. Anyway, Shilin decided that he would not leave the Death Desert before finding the Desert Palace. Why didn't Peeps come to see me? Shilin saw that Peeps hadn't come to see his master for a long time. Peeps just left the desert forest, but after hearing your dragon roar from Big Brother, I believe he will be back soon. Katerina explained. Yeah, Shilin nodded, and walked out of the dragon's den with Katerina. The internal construction of the dragon cave is similar to the previous imperial palace. There are also flammable candlesticks around. As long as Shilin emits a slight scent of ignition, the candlestick can be ignited by itself. As soon as he walked out of the dragon's den, the sun's rays above his head hit Shilin's eyes directly. However, the red dragon's eye structure was full of flames, and there was nothing wrong with it. Meet your majesty the true dragon. The attackers who were still in the desert forest all gathered and looked up at Shilin's stalwart body. Meet your majesty the true dragon. At this moment, a strong voice came from the bottom of the lake, and Akfo revealed his huge body. It is worth mentioning that the Western fantasy continent is not the bigger and stronger. Mainly depends on the specific combat power. Shilin's eyes swept across the assailant one by one. Not counting the assailants taken by Peeps, there are roughly 200 assailants here. Most of them are females, carrying a newly born assailant on their backs. It seems that the number of 1,000 is still a bit conservative. From today, the Red Dragon Empire that belongs to me is officially established. The name is Noxus. Shilin directly used the empire name of a game in the previous life. Long live Noxus. Long live Noxus. Long live Noxus. Quote. All the relatives around shouted long live Noxus to the sky. The slogan resounded through the sky. It seems that even the natural gods can hear it. Originally, Shilin wanted to forgive Rima, after all, he was in the desert. But it feels less domineering than Noxus. But the name of the empire can be changed anytime you want. What? Why are you asking? Shilin is the ruler of the empire, who dares to refute his opinion? Isn't that looking for death? Your Majesty the Great Red Dragon. Your humble servant is always too late. Please forgive him. At this time, Peeps rushed back with the team riding the horned lizard. The first thing he did when he got to Shilin's side was to jump down and kneel on the ground. Forgive you? No Peeps, I not only want to forgive you, I also want to reward you. Shilin said slowly. Peeps was ecstatic when he heard it. I heard that Shilin thought he was going to be punished in the first half. As a result, I didn't expect that there was not only no punishment but also rewards. Thank your Majesty for the reward. Even if your reward is saliva, it is also the greatest reward for me. Peeps said enthusiastically. Drool. Forget it, I'm not that sick. Shilin's mouth twitched. Although the dragon is full of treasures, but to reward the dependents with saliva, then forget it. Peeps, the leader of the Blade tribe. The sharp blade of Noxus. The first warrior to rush. I hereby give you the title of Crystal Pioneer. And Blood Ascension once. After Shilin finished speaking, a piece of dragon scale on his body melted and fell to the ground. That piece of dragon scale quickly turned into a red crystal that resembled a stone. This is transformed by a trace of blood in Shilin's body, which can help the blood of the dependent ascension. The dragons are needed to increase the strength of the dependents in this way. It's just that this reward is rare. After all, dragons generally don't care much about the bloodline strength of their family members. Your blood is low, then I'll just find someone who is taller. Why I have to look for you? Shilin is different. Peeps, as the first vanguard among his family members, is sufficiently qualified to obtain it. This is. Peeps' breathing became rapid, and he never thought that His Majesty would be willing to give himself the blood ice crystal. Thank your Majesty for the reward. Your body will always exist in my soul. Peeps was excited and didn't know what to say, and directly dedicated his soul to Shilin. From then on, even his soul only belonged to Shilin. I hope you don't let me down. Shilin said lightly. Please rest assured. Peeps put his head on the ground. Shilin looked down at Peeps and said, yeah. Peeps stretched out his trembling 6 feet and grabbed the blood ice crystal that Shilin had rewarded. The bloodline ice crystal emits red light, like a rare gem. In fact, it is more precious and valuable than gems. With the permission of Shilin's eyes, Peeps inserted the bloodline ice crystal into own abdomen. What? The bloodline ice crystal quickly dissolved the flesh and blood in Peeps' abdomen, and dived into the depths. The burning pain made Peeps scream, the wound in his abdomen was scorched, and white smoke came out. Click. The bloodline ice crystal was completely swallowed by Peeps to his abdomen, and a terrible energy was gestating in his body. Boom. With Peeps as the center, a wave visible to the naked eye spreads around. Shilin immediately opened his right wing to cover Olenna, so that she was not blown away. The other assailants were almost blown away by this powerful wave, and they had no choice but to get half of their bodies into the ground. The coquettish purple light bloomed in Peeps' abdomen. The skin of his whole body turned into an amethyst-like appearance, and a curved tail thorn grew on his buttocks. The thick jaw gradually shrank back, and his body swelled to 7 meters. Salute to the Great Majesty. Peeps has completely completed the evolution, and now he feels the unmatched power in his body. Name: Peeps. Creature: Purple Attacker, Chaotic Evil, Adult. Attack: 299, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 300. Defense: 210, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 200. Speed: 110, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 150. Physique: 300, Ordinary Juvenile Red Dragon 350. Item: none. Magic: none. Talent: Hard Shell, Spirit Level. Abilities: Bite, Crystal Poison Needle, Crystal Scorpion Armor, Humanoid Posture. Evaluation: a very powerful upgraded species. Good guys. A bloodline ice crystal actually made Peeps's data and the young red dragon inferior. But that was just the data of the ordinary red dragon, far from the real young red dragon. And Peeps has grown up. Longshay: sorry, Your Majesty, I haven't found any desert demon girl in this month. Peeps is now half kneeling on the ground in a humanoid posture. Humanoid posture is his unique skill, but in fact it is far from human. Have you ever seen a person with amethyst outfit and full of sharp teeth? It doesn't matter. Shilin didn't blame Peeps. The whereabouts of the demon girl in the desert is erratic, and it is normal to not encounter it. Only the relatives of Shilin are eligible to come in Longshay. Among them are Katarina, Olenna, Peeps and Akfer. It's just that Akfer was too big to get in at all. I heard that you found another desert forest. Shilin became interested. Yes, Your Majesty, that desert forest is a thing of no one. A group of our troops are stationed there, waiting for your decision. Peeps said. Shilin lay on the leather of the horned lizard and said, I don't bother to go to that place, Katarina, please go and see. Huh, I'm going. Katarina was a little surprised that Big Brother would actually ask herself to go. Well, you can't stay here all day, it would be nice to go out for a walk. Shilin felt that Katarina had nothing to do, she had better arrange something for her. Okay, Big Brother. Katarina was very excited now, and it was finally a serious task. After a brief meeting, Peeps and Catalina left here. Arena, I heard that Katarina taught you magic. Shilin finally turned his gaze back to the incarnation of the goddess of luck. Yes, Your Majesty Red Dragon. Olenna is no longer that little stutter, after all, she has faced Shilin for a while. As long as Shilin is not angry or release Longway, Olenna can barely stand firm. What kind of magic do you learn? Shilin asked. Olenna replied. I study water magic and fire magic. As soon as Shilin heard it, she knew it was made by Catalina. Katarina is also majoring in these two magics. The magic of dragons is an all-magic city, but they are almost all single developments. For example, Red Dragon, they mainly use fire magic. Even if you know water magic, you won't use it. Because they hate water. And Shilin is an alien, he wants to be a magic dragon of all elements. Look at me using Fireball, Shilin said. Fireball is a must-learn magic for fire magicians. Huh, right, Your Majesty Red Dragon. Olenna was a little embarrassed when she heard it. Is Red Dragon self-inflicted? Don't worry, I am Red Dragon, and your fireball technique will not work for me. Shilin said with disdain. Basically, fire magic has no effect on the Red Dragon, unless it is a particularly powerful fire magic. It was not the flame that hurt the Red Dragon, but the impact after the magic explosion. Okay then, Olenna didn't care about Her Majesty, so she couldn't refuse it anymore. I saw Olenna clenched her hands into fists, singing magic silently. Fireball, fireball, a fiery ball of fire 1 meter wide condensed and formed in front of Olenna. Then the fireball attacked Shilin's dark red dragon scales. Bang! The fireball slammed into Shilin's dragon armor firmly, setting off a cloud of black mist. Your Majesty, Olenna called out in a panic. As a result, the next moment Shilin waved the dragon's wings lightly, and the black mist dissipated around him. What is it called? Your big fireball is not as comfortable as a magma bath. Shilin was a little speechless, and seeing you sing for so long, he thought it was some powerful magic. Unexpectedly, in the end, it would be better than the temperature of bathing in the magma. That's not, your body is too strong. Olenna's two white fingers poked at each other, her expression aggrieved. Originally, I thought that His Majesty Red Dragon would be hurt a little, so he was so nervous that he almost forgot the terrible physique of His Majesty. It just so happens that you know how to do fireball, come over and give me a bath. Shilin turned her back to Olenna. Generally, every time I finish exercising, I go back to take a comfortable bath in the magma. But now I came to the Death Desert. I haven't taken a bath for a long time, and the conditions are not allowed. Olenna now knows how to use fireball, so she can use her fireball. What? Olenna felt that the red dragon's thinking was a bit problematic, and used fire magic to take a bath. This should be the first time in the entire Western fantasy continent, right? Even other red dragons don't do that much. However, His Majesty's order was absolute, and Olenna reluctantly became Shilin's bather. The other side, Katarina is flying towards the new desert forest. And Peeps underneath led the cavalry to chase, setting off layers of sand and dust. His Royal Highness Catalina, there is still some distance from the desert forest, would you like to take a break? Peeps yelled at Catalina in the sky while riding a horned lizard. While waiting for others to ride a horned lizard, His Royal Highness Catalina flew in the sky. Peeps felt a little embarrassed. Unnecessary. Katarina lowered her height a bit, and she had new discoveries just now. After returning to Noxus, she had to report to Big Brother. The cavalry troops chased all the way, and finally successfully reached the new desert forest within half an hour. What? The horned lizard was stopped by Peeps and made a harsh cry. Here is your Royal Highness Katrina. Peeps jumped off the horned lizard and walked away with the horned lizard. Katarina also fell on the ground, and the lush desert forest was in front of her. Hello, Chief Peeps. Hello, Your Highness Catalina. The attacker who was guarding the forest said hello to the two. Catalina and Peeps hummed casually, and walked into the desert forest. His Royal Highness Katrina, this forest is only about 10 hectares, which is a bit smaller than the original desert forest. Peeps handed the horned lizard to the other attackers and walked over to Catalina to report the situation. Well, I smelled an unfamiliar smell. Katarina stopped suddenly, sniffed her nose and said, Yes, Your Highness Katrina, we found some traces of other predators here. Peeps took Catalina to a clearing where there were 3 assailants' handles. In the middle of the clearing, there was a fire that was still warm, and it seemed to have been extinguished not long ago. Magical beasts without IQ will not make a fire, it looks like magical beasts of wisdom. Katarina is very familiar with the breath of attackers, humans, and Akfer, which is different from them. The new unknown magical beasts. Do you know any tribes in this desert? Katarina turned her head and asked Peeps. Peeps thought for a while, and quickly said, Yes, in the northern part of the Death Desert, it is occupied by a group of powerful toothy tribes. The Tooth Tribe. What was that magical beasts built? Katarina asked puzzledly. A group of tortoises with spiked tortoise shells, what kind of race they are? I don't know. The Blade Tribe has never been to the north to deal with them. Peeps shook his head, all he knew was a group of turtles. The tortoise with a spiked tortoise shell life in the desert. Katarina quickly looked up the memories of the dragon race, and immediately found several similar tortoise races. Since she hadn't seen that race, Katarina didn't dare to confirm what it was. Then is it possible that they left it? Catalina let out a breath of cold and froze the fire that was still warm. It's possible, after all, this is already close to the northern area. Peeps nodded. It's possible. Peeps, your intelligence work is really good enough. Katarina made a funny sarcasm. Sorry, Your Highness Katarina. It's my negligence. Peeps quickly half-kneeled on the ground, hoping Catalina could forgive him. Enough, compared to Big Brother, I hate verbal actions and prefer practical actions. There is Tooth tribe in the north, then you go and call me. Katerina said cruelly. But, Your Majesty Katrina, we have to apply for Your Majesty's opinion first. Peeps said frightened. I understand this. I'll go back now and come back soon. Just gather the troops. Catalina spread her dragon wings and soared into the sky in an instant, disappearing before Peeps' eyes. Understood. Peeps turned to organize the army to prepare for the attack. Noxus. Comfortable. I haven't taken this shower for a long time. Shilin exposed her abdomen, and Olena was struggling with Fireball. Olena is already sweating, and the magic in her body is almost exhausted. Thanks to her being the incarnation of the goddess of luck, otherwise the magic value of ordinary people would have been exhausted. Hee hee, Olena panted, using magic with one hand, and wiping the sweat on her cheeks with the other. Okay, look at you, too. Shilin turned over and said. Seeing that Your Majesty was finally healed, Olena suddenly slumped on the ground, very tiring. Don't look exhausted, I'm exercising your magic. Are you getting more proficient in fireball skills now? Shilin smiled softly, and taking a bath by herself can help Olena become proficient in magic. This approach is simply killing two birds with one stone. Thanks. Thank you, Your Majesty. Olena couldn't hold it anymore, and fell to the ground motionless, like a torn flower. Big brother. At this moment, Katerina got into the dragon's lair, only to see Olena like this. What's wrong with her? Katerina said with some confusion. It's okay, it's just overuse of magic. How is the survey of the new desert forest? Shilin changed the subject. Oh, by the way, big brother, the size of the new desert forest is only 10 hectares. But we found traces of other races in there, listen to Peeps. There is a Tooth tribe in the north, and I am planning to attack them now. So I came back here to ask Big Brother for your advice. Katerina said excitedly, this is her first time to fight. This is the first time to lead a battle. I am so excited. Bangfang tribe. Shilin tilted his head. Katerina immediately explained to Shilin the race in the Toothy tribe. A tortoise with a spiny shell. Interesting, but are you sure you will win? Shilin chuckled lightly. The strength of the attacker itself is very good, but as the Toothy tribe still occupying the north, it seems to be a little immature. If Shilin went by himself, he would definitely be able to fight down immediately. But Shilin will not go, at least not now. What is the purpose of raising family members by yourself? It's not that you don't want to do everything yourself. You have to do everything yourself. What do you want the Red Dragon Empire to do? Of course, Big Brother. I am here. For fear that Shilin would look down on herself, Katerina raised her head to show her own dragon wings. Well, I will allow this battle, but the leader must be Peeps. Shilin said. As a leader, Peeps has much better experience in leading the battle than Katrina. Catalina should learn for the first time, not catch up with the shelves and lead soldiers. All right, Catalina was very excited at first. Big Brother agreed, but the leader turned out to be Peeps. Don't be disappointed, the leader will be handed over to you next time. Shilin came to Catalina and picked up Catalina's chin with the dragon's tail. Okay then, Katerina almost blushed, but fortunately the silver dragon scales covered her blush. Watching Katerina's departure, Shilin also went to see how the top was working. Leave Olena. When Shilin passed by Olena, she also used a dragon's tail to wrap her up. The spikes on the dragon's tail can shrink freely, and there is no need to worry about hurting Olena. On the ground, as soon as Shilin came out, he breathed fresh air and threw Olena on his tail directly into the small pond. This was dug by Katerina herself and used it to bathe her. It may be the reason why Yinlong's gene is more obvious. Her life habits are more biased towards Yinlong. Thump, Olena successfully fell into the water. Help, Your Majesty, I can't swim. Olena's body, which was already exhausted, suddenly regained strength. Oh yes, I almost forgot. Shilin has forgotten that Olena can't swim anymore. So he picked up Olena. Poor Olena had already been wet by the water. Due to the hot weather in the desert area, Olena's clothes were originally lighter. Coupled with being soaked in water, the red flower on his body seemed to be looming. The body that belongs to the girly breath is displayed vividly, but it is a pity that it is too small. What? Olena also found this, and her blushing face became even more red. What are you hiding? Shilin pretended to be disdainful. In fact, his heartbeat has accelerated a little, and it seems that he is already a young dragon. When the dragon reaches the young dragon, it means it's okay. It's just that most dragons will look for a mate and give birth to a cub when they become adult dragons. Seeing Shilin didn't care, Olenna seemed a little overwhelmed. Didn't Grandma say that evil dragons not only like to eat human girls, but also like to do that with human girls? Hurry up and change your clothes. Although it's easy to dry in the desert, don't catch a cold. Shilin opened the dragon wings to cover Olenna, but in fact all her eyes were on Olenna. He is not a pervert, he just wants to see what is special about the incarnation of Goddess of Luck. That's right, that's it. But Your Majesty, Olenna flushed, not knowing what to say. You are just looking at me like this, how should I change my clothes? 3 minutes later, Olenna seemed to be puffed up above her head. Not only Olenna, above the supreme star. A goddess with big wavy golden curly hair emitting dazzling light, and her delicate brows wrinkled slightly. Then Hao Feng's red lips moved lightly. Red dragon. Western fantasy land. Shilin didn't know what happened to the gods in the sky, and he had already feasted his eyes anyway. You brought up the idea of raising horned lizards. Seeing that Olenna kept blushing, Shilin could only help her divert her attention. Yes, Your Majesty, when we were in the village, we raised some simple magical beasts to store food. So you don't have to risk going out hunting. Olenna was successfully distracted by Shilin and recalled the memory of the village. It's just, the village should have been destroyed by the Forest Lord. Good job. Shilin Xiao praised Olenna. After hearing Your Majesty's praise, Olenna became a little embarrassed. I was embarrassed just now because of shyness, but now I am embarrassed to be a little shy. The attackers piled up small sand dunes nearby, which are their homes. It's just that most of the dunes are outside the forest. After all, dune raiders are more suitable for life in the desert. Came to the desert forest just to prey on other animals inside. Your Majesty, the assailants who were busy taking children said respectfully after seeing Shilin's figure. You are busy don't care about me. Shilin responded and took Olenna to the lake. Boom. Feeling the breath of Shilin, Akfo quickly got out from the bottom of the water. Your Majesty, Akfor said. Front, His Royal Highness Catalina. Seeing Katarina's return, Peeps immediately led the army to kneel on the ground and shouted. Well, Big Brother agreed and gave you command. Katarina said blankly. Thank Your Majesty for your trust. The humble servant will surely conquer this territory for him. Peeps said excitedly. He never expected that His Majesty believed in himself so much and gave him the command, not to His Royal Highness Katrina. This is great trust and support. Hope Peeps, you don't let Big Brother down. Katarina still wanted to command in her heart. It's just that Big Brother's order has already been issued, so he must obey it. Peeps must use his life guarantee. A raging fire burned in Peeps's eyes, it was the embodiment of the fighting spirit. Blade Tribe, assemble, Peeps shouted, booming. The earth seemed to begin to shake, and more than 800 teams equipped with horned lizard cavalry were assembled. Just an order from Peeps, you can attack the north over there. His Royal Highness Catalina, you should call for the attack. Peeps is very smart, although Shilin gave him the command. But he still gave up the chance to attack this scenery to Catalina. He knew that Katarina was angry, why didn't he direct it herself? Sure enough, the whole dragon couldn't help laughing when Catalina heard it. For the great Noxus, charge! Katarina's voice resounded through the sky from her mouth. Long live Noxus! The assembled cavalry force moved toward the north vigorously. 100-meter high sand and dust was lifted. Red dust is billowing, smoke is everywhere. The cavalry of the Blade Tribe moved towards the Fang. Tooth Tribe. A tortoise in thorn armor is sitting on a stone bench. In front of him turned out to be a lot of watery grapes. To celebrate the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Toothy Tribe, cheers. Ramos happily raised the stone cup and laughed. The Toothy Tribe was founded by his father 100 years ago. There are not only the armored dragon turtle group, but also some other races, large and small. The total number adds up to more than 1,500 people. Haha, cheers to the great Toothy Tribe. A sand-burst turtle stood up. The sand-burst turtle is a close brother of the armored dragon turtle, whose whole body is made of sand. It is an element line magical beasts. Cheers. Ramos took a sip of the grape juice secreted by the toothy tribe himself, as he was about to speak. Leader Ramos. A group of mighty attackers came to the south. They are coming towards our tribe on a horned lizard. It looks like the one who came is not good. An armored dragon turtle spy rushed in and said. The movement of the Blade tribe is so great that the armored dragon turtle can naturally notice them. Attacker. That bunch of bugs. Ramos raised his brows, and instead of making trouble for them, they made trouble for them instead. It's really rubbish these days to dare to cause trouble. But this time they got the wrong turtle. We are the Toothy tribe. The sand-burst turtle stood up angrily and smashed the stone table vigorously. Interesting. I originally wanted to wait for the Fang tribe to stabilize before going south to attack. Unexpectedly, the group of attackers from the south came by themselves, so it just happened to merge. Click. Ramos crushed the stone cup in his hand, his eyes bursting with yellow light. Not long ago, the Fang tribe had just ended a big battle. The Fang tribe, which originally had a population of more than 3,000, was reduced to more than 1,500. But Ramos is not afraid at all. They are the strongest fighters. Send my order. Assemble troops and prepare to meet the enemy. Ramos stood up suddenly, and the 5-meter-high figure appeared. Outside, His Royal Highness Catalina, here we are. Pepesla stopped the horned lizard, and all the attackers stopped. Go on, I'll surprise them. Katarina's figure is hidden in the sky, and she wants to surprise Big Brother. Understood. Peeps nodded. Then Peeps hadn't done anything before, and the opponents had already driven out. Isn't this the bug from the south? You don't want to stay there and wait to die. Why are you coming to my Toothy tribe? Is it because you want to drive, and are you ready to defect to us? Ramos led more than 1,000 people to stop Peeps and others outside the tribe. Shut up, you green turtle, call out the leader of your family. Peeps didn't know that Ramos was the leader of the Toothy tribe. Chief, ha ha ha, tell them who I am. Ramos laughed first, then said to the people behind him. Bug, listen up, he is our great leader Ramos. The dragon turtles behind them shouted in unison. The leader, I didn't expect you to be the leader. Peeps was a little surprised at the time, and looked up and down Ramos a few more times. Why, doesn't it look like? Ramos deliberately stood up straight. Although his body of 5 meters was not as tall as Peeps, his aura was not weak at all. It just so happens that I am here to subdue you green turtles on the will of your majesty the Red Dragon. I advise you to lay down your weapons and surrender. Peeps pulled out the banner of Shilin. It is the best result to subdue the Tooth tribe without doing anything. After all, the Fang tribe is very powerful. If you do it, both sides will be killed and injured absolutely. At least there will be a period of recovery. Red Dragon. The dragon turtles of the Toothy tribe started talking. Who is the Red Dragon? The strongest 5-color dragon in the entire Western fantasy continent. The adult Red Dragon is even more of a well-deserved overlord on the mainland. Ramos was also shocked when he heard that. Is the Red Dragon in Peeps's mouth real? The name of the Red Dragon is very resounding. No magical beasts wants to provoke an adult Red Dragon. What's your name? Ramos asked, narrowing his eyes. Peeps, the crystal pioneer of the Red Dragon Empire of Noxus. Peeps uttered the name of the empire smoothly, which improved the authenticity of the existence of the Red Dragon. Chief, what if it is really a Red Dragon? The sand tortoise asked nervously beside Ramos. After hearing the Red Dragon's reputation, he was still fighting Lingran, and he was like a vegetable that had been burned. Humph, if it's the Red Dragon, why doesn't he come? Ramos could only pretend to be calm and said in order to stabilize his brother. That's a fake. After hearing Ramos's words, the sand-bursting turtle calmed down a lot. Ramos carefully observed Peeps's eyes, trying to find a clue. But Peeps's firm eyes made Ramos bewildered for a long time. Green turtle, hurry up. Decide whether you want to fight the Red Dragon Empire or go. Peeps said impatiently. With Shilin behind his back, Peeps is fearless. Chapter 41. Just when Peeps and Ramos were communicating, Catalina in the sky has figured out what kind of creatures this group is. Armored dragon turtle, a kind of perverted defensive guy whose back shell is covered with sharp spikes. It can effectively injure the opponent while defending. But that kind of defense is only physical defense, and magic has a significant effect on the armored dragon turtle. The character is more violent and aggressive, but also full of strength. The reason why the armored dragon turtle is so tough is that he has the blood of a dragon on his body. Legend has it that a long time ago, a dragon and a turtle fell in love, so the armored dragon turtle was born. It's a pity that the armored dragon turtle was disliked by the dragon from birth. The dragon is always the kind of existence that dislikes the mixed race. What the hell are they doing? Katarina couldn't help but attack from the sky. After figuring out the weakness of the armored dragon turtle, the dive that had been prepared was replaced with water magic. If you are really backed by a red dragon over there, I will definitely take refuge in you. But how do you prove that you are true? Ramos asked. He had a vague sense of refuge in his heart, but if the opponent didn't have a red dragon at all, wouldn't he be deceived? Green turtle, can you question your majesty red dragon? Peeps will not produce evidence to prove the existence of Shilin. In Peeps's opinion, Shilin is the supreme existence, and Ramos is insulting Shilin by saying that. It looks like you can't show evidence. Ramos' patience is also limited. The heart that was already moved becomes firm. No matter whether you have a red dragon to help out, let's fight first. Even if the red dragon comes back, what about it? After seeing that his tribe is so powerful, he will definitely take us in. Tooth tribe, Ramos yelled when he figured this out. Roar, the armored dragon turtle behind is ready to go, they can't wait for a long time. Kill, Ramos retracted the entire turtle into its shell, rotated his body, and slammed into Peeps. For the great Noxus, Peeps jumped directly from the horned lizard, and the amethyst skin all over his body became more crystal clear. Bang, the leaders of the two parties entangled first. The respective armies behind him also had friction and collision, and the seams were hard to separate for a while. Countless smoke and dust spread around, covering the entire battlefield. You don't look like anything, green turtle. Outside Peeps's skin, a purple shield blocked Ramos's impact. Peeps himself was not harmed in any way. Don't be smug too early. Ramos got out of the tortoise shell, and his claws wrestled with Peep's pliers. In the sky, finally fighting. Katarina was pleased to see this. The washing magic that had been prepared for a long time fell from the sky. Water ball blasting. Water ball blasting. Boom. A 10-meter wide water ball fell from the sky when sunlight hit the water ball. In addition to the colorful light reflected by the entire crystal clear water ball, it illuminates the battlefield underneath for a while. What's that? The sandburst turtle raised his head in confusion. Bang! Just when the water polo was about to land on the ground, the water polo that was already good suddenly exploded. A strong burst of water blasted the surrounding armored dragon turtle, most of which hit the sandburst turtle. Do not. The sand tortoise looked at the gradually dissolving body and screamed in despair, but death still arrived as expected. The body of the sandburst turtle turned into mud and lay in the desert, and its life had long since disappeared. There is an ambush. The armored dragon turtle reacted and looked up at the sky one by one, only to see a silver dragon. It's Yinlong. You lied to me. Ramos scolded Peeps angrily. Said the red dragon. As a result, you are taking refuge in Yinlong. In his opinion, the silver dragon belongs to a kind and lawful race. How could it follow the chaotic and evil red dragon? I lied to you. Humph. Peeps swung his huge scorpion forceps and hit Ramos in the abdomen. Feeling the huge impact in the abdomen, Ramos's entire turtle flew upside down and slid for tens of meters in the desert. Bang! Ah! Ramos roared from his mouth as soon as he got up. Catalina in the sky saw the power of own magic and was happy to prepare for the next magic. As a result, Ramos' screams penetrated her mind, not knowing why. She suddenly seemed to attack the leader Ramos, the humble green turtle. Catalina put away the dragon's wings and dived straight down from the air. Seeing this, Ramos hurriedly retracted into the tortoise shell. The spikes on his body were raised 3 inches. Not good. Peeps saw that Catalina was in danger, and the scorpion behind him hooked Ramos over at the next moment. Bang! Catalina successfully landed, and a layer of sand was violent. But Ramos has been pulled away by Peeps. This is a mental attack. Katarina reacted quickly. Obviously he was staying well in the sky, but he didn't expect to be attracted by Ramos's cry. He almost ran into Ramos's spiked back shell. If it weren't for Pepesra to leave Ramos at the critical moment, he might have been injured a bit. The guy in the way. Ramos saw that his own attack hadn't achieved the effect, and he was almost mad at Peeps. Originally, a chance to severely damage the dragon was gone. Ramos was extremely angry and hammered the ground with his claws. Boom! A terrible vibration wave erupted from under Ramos' feet. The ground under his feet shot up like a stone, hitting Peeps's body. What? Peeps flew out in pain, rolling down several times on the sand. Your life will end again. Ramos raised his own claws high and was about to dig towards Peeps's chest. At this moment, an extremely fast silver light flew like an arrow. Boom! Catalina's sharp claws hit Ramos in the stomach. Pouch! A stream of blood spurted out and fell in the yellow desert. Reptile! You dare to hurt even the servants of the dragon. When Katerina had just rescued her from Peeps, she completely agreed with Peeps. Although they are ugly, they are also own servants. Ramos knelt on the ground, covering the wound in his abdomen with one hand, and blood was constantly leaking out. Tick, tick, tick. Ramos just didn't pay attention to Katrina, which made it too late to harden the shell. Especially Katerina attacked her soft abdomen. You deserve to die, reptile. Katerina opened her mouth wide, and the water droplets in the dragon's mouth quickly condensed. Wait, Your Highness Katerina. Seeing this, Peeps hurriedly got up to endure the pain, and stopped Katrina's next movie. What's the matter, Peeps, do you want to betray? Katerina stopped the drop of water and said impatiently. What happened to Peeps saving her? That was not the reason why Peeps had made an inch. The strength of Ramos is very strong, and His Majesty the Red Dragon needs such a strong servant. Peeps knew that Katerina was angry, and hurriedly knelt down. Big brother. Katerina thought of the strength of her subordinates now, it was indeed quite weak. So the drops of water in her mouth slowly disappeared. Your strength saved your life. Catalina spit out a mouthful of flame, which turned into a ring of fire in midair and trapped Ramos. See. What? The flames are burning Ramos' skin, this is his lesson. Your leader Ramos has already lost. If you need to continue, I will stay with Catalina to the end. Catalina grabbed Ramos and flew into the middle of the battlefield, shouting to the other dragon turtle of the toothy tribe below. The other armored dragon turtle saw that the boss had lost, and Catalina was a dragon. All armored dragon turtles surrendered decisively, not daring to make any more movements. Lost, Ramos said with a muffled voice. He didn't stop the tribe from surrendering. With the silver dragon of Katerina, the ending was already set. Rather than fight desperately, it's better to get caught. Otherwise, the only thing waiting for the armored dragon turtle is destruction. Ramos didn't want to be a sinner who would destroy the race. This war lasted more than half an hour before it ended. Peeps led the cavalry commander and drove straight in and came to the center of the Fang tribe. I can't tell, your food is pretty good. Katerina couldn't help but pick one of the grapes to eat, delicious. We are willing to take refuge in you, Your Majesty the Great Silver Dragon. Ramos completely thought Catalina was Peeps's confidence. Your Majesty Silver Dragon, humph, Catalina said gloomily to Ramos, please remember. Call me Your Royal Highness Catalina. Your Majesty is only one. That is my Majesty Big Brother Shilin. Katerina's voice spread throughout the toothy tribe. All the Fang tribe looked at Katrina with unbelievable eyes. In Western fantasy continent, everyone knows that the Silver Dragon and the Red Dragon are mortal enemies. Now you say that the Red Dragon is your big brother. Ramos also widened his eyes in shock. Does the opponent really have a Red Dragon as his trump card? Katerina didn't explain too much, but when this group of armored dragon turtles saw Big Brother, they would understand. What do we need to do now? Your Royal Highness Katrina. Peeps asked. I led some of the attackers and took them to Noxus to see my big brother. And you left 50 attackers to count the treasures of the toothy tribe. Katerina said. In the previous war, there were about 800 attackers, but now there are only more than 500. And the 1,500 people wearing dragon turtle also lost 500. This is mainly thanks to Katrina's magic, otherwise dragon turtle wouldn't die so much in armor. Understood. Peeps handed over 50 attackers, and the others followed Katrina. Noxus. According to what you mean, it takes about 3 months to reach a human gathering place. Shilin hit the ground with his claws. Yes, Your Majesty, Akfor said. As a magical beast who has followed the caravan, he also made a special note of how long it has been from Heiko to here. Well, the human caravan has been walking for 3 months. At my full speed, it seems that it only takes half a month. Shilin didn't expect it to be that long in Caspian Sea here. It's fine if it's other places, but it's a desert. It seems that the legend that has fallen from the kingdom of God is likely to be true. Only this kind of desert that appeared out of thin air would appear so peculiar. Your Majesty, the dust is rolling in the distance, it seems that someone is coming. At this time, an ordinary attacker came to Shilin to report. Someone here, Shilin frowned. Could someone attack them at this time? In any case, Shilin as the owner must go out. There are only 100 or 200 attackers here, and they can't stop the enemy at all. When Olena saw that Shilin was leaving for the time being, she suddenly smiled, and the result was the next moment. By the way, you also go with me. Shilin just took a step and caught Olena. Ah, Olena's little face suddenly became depressed. Why do you have to take yourself with you every time you have something? Outside, Your Majesty, that's it. The attacker pointed to the dust in the distance and said. Fun, what did I say? It turns out that little sister is back. Shilin's superb strength immediately saw through the sand mist, and clearly saw the creatures inside and Katrina flying in the air. What? It turned out to be His Royal Highness Katrina. The servant's dog's eyes didn't see clearly. The assailant was taken aback, and hurried to his knees, for fear that Shilin would punish him. No problem, you go back, there is me here. Shilin was not so nervous to punish his subordinates, and they did nothing wrong. After hearing this, the attacker hurriedly rolled back into the desert forest. Big brother. Immediately after the attacker left, Katerina fell from the air in front of Shilin. The first thing he did when he returned to Shilin was to rub Big Brother's neck. Okay Katerina, what are you bringing me back? Shilin silently pushed Katrina away, and saw the attacker cavalry unit behind her and the tortoises one by one. No, according to the memory of the dragons, they should be called the dragon turtle. They are the armored dragon turtle of the Tooth tribe. After we successfully defeated them, we surrendered to us. Catalina raised her head proudly, as if waiting for Shilin's praise. Katerina. Filled circle you filled circle. Quote. Good job Katrina, worthy of being my little sister. Seeing Katerina's longing eyes, Shilin's mouth twitched. Of course Big Brother, I'm the little sister of Shilin, and Catalina will never lose the face of Big Brother. Katerina said. Shilin rolled his eyes angrily, then set his gaze on the Fang Fang tribe. At this moment, all the armored dragon turtles were dumbfounded. I'm good. There really is a red dragon of this size. Shilin is now a big guy with a length of 20 meters. The armored dragon turtle is not as good as Shilin's entire tail. You are the Toothy tribe. It looks okay indeed. Shilin looked up and down the leader Ramos and said. However, why does Ramos still have a ring of fire on his body? Perhaps seeing Big Brother's puzzlement, Katerina explained it in advance. So it was. Shilin looked at Ramos playfully. Feeling the gaze of the giant dragon in front of him, Ramos knelt directly on the ground. Great Red Dragon, I didn't know that there really is a supreme existence here. You are the star in the universe, and I am just dust in the desert. Please forgive the ignorance of this dust. Ramos pleaded. Shilin's pressure in front of them was too much, it was like a sharp blade, and he could bleed them at any time. As everyone knows, this is just Shilin's aura, he has not even released Longway. Star and dust. Shilin wanted to laugh a little after hearing Ramos' praise. He is quite cool with these words, much better than Peeps. Yes, we are just rice grains, and you are the sun and the moon in the sky, the light of the rice grains, how dare you compete with the sun and the moon? Seeing Shilin's smile, Ramos was immediately overjoyed, and hurriedly exaggerated a few more words. Humph, but he didn't expect the next moment, the terrible coercion would be released from Shilin. Longway is like a large mountain, pressed on the shoulders of the armored dragon turtle. Countless armored dragon turtles were all lying on the ground by the mountain, crushed to the ground ruthlessly by the dragon, without any resistance. This. Ramos was so scared that he couldn't say anything for a while. How could the red dragon, who was so happy just now, become so terrifying in a blink of an eye? Peeps said this before turning to me, and when I gave him what I said, I like to take action. Shilin put away a faint smile and turned serious. Just listen to this kind of flattering words once, but if you listen more, you will find it harsh and false. Our toothy tribe is willing to follow your stalwart figure forever. If you betray you will be captured by the god of rules and burn our souls with cannonballs. Ramos was also an understanding turtle, and immediately stopped talking about those imaginary things. Instead, he directly swore to follow Shilin and never betrayed. Ha, come in. Shilin shook his body and flew into the desert forest behind him. Catalina and the Tooth tribe followed closely behind. In the desert forest, do you think my approach is correct? Shilin asked Olena next to her. Olena was puzzled for a while. She didn't understand why Shilin asked her that, and she didn't dare to talk nonsense. The incarnation of the goddess of luck, what the hell is it? Shilin didn't ask Olena too much, and the memory of the dragon race had no record of this incarnation. Maybe you can ask her when you have a chance to see Danny as a child. Living a long time, I always know a little bit more. Soon, Katerina and the Fang tribe rushed over. The hundreds of cavalry attackers rushed toward the location of the Fang tribe. There are a lot of Toothy tribe treasures there. Only with Peep's group of more than 50 attackers, it will take a certain amount of time to clean up the treasure quickly. Meet Your Majesty the Great Red Dragon. Ramos led the armored dragon turtle to Shilin and bowed down. Name: Ramos. Creature: Armored dragon turtle, chaotic evil, adult. Attack: 280, ordinary young red dragon 300. Defense: 350, ordinary juvenile red dragon 200. Speed: 100, ordinary juvenile red dragon 150. Physique: 358, ordinary juvenile red dragon 350. Item: none. Magic: none. Talent: invincible shell, demigod. Abilities: bite, power dash, spike defense, frenzy taunt, shake the earth. Evaluation: a very powerful armored dragon turtle everywhere, with prominent dragon bloodlines in the body, qualified to become a demigod. Ramos's statistics are comparable to Peep's, but his talent and evaluation have a very different relationship with Peep's. The talent turned out to be a demigod, and the system also said that Ramos was qualified to become a demigod. Demigods, only under the real gods. Legend has it that when the dragon is about to die and burst out, it can possess the power of a demigod. It can be seen from this that Ramos has a very good talent and is a potential demigod. Ramos. With a whisper from the corner of Shilin's mouth, the ring of fire on Ramos dispersed with the wind. Your Majesty, your humble servant is here. Ramos responded quickly. From today onwards, you are one of the dependents of my Red Dragon Empire, remember. Our empire is named Noxus. Anyone who violates my Noxus will be punishable even if it is far away. Shilin's roar resounded through the desert forest, letting all the dependents know. They are from Noxus. No one can mess with them. Long live Noxus. When the attackers outside heard Shilin's roar, they all shouted. Long live Noxus. Long live Noxus. Hearing the armored dragon turtle yelling from the attacker, he immediately yelled. Inside the dragon's den, have you ever seen the desert demon girl? Shilin lay on his own position and asked Ramos. Desert demon girl, Your Majesty, I saw a desert demon girl before last week, when they came to make a deal with us. Ramos didn't know what His Majesty was doing with the desert demon girl. Have you seen the demon girl in the desert? Shilin's face was surprised. It has been so long, but I have heard the news about the desert demon girl. Yes, Your Majesty, just last week, 3 days ago to be precise. Ramos said quickly. He is at a loss now. Why is Your Majesty so happy? By the way, what deal do you do? Shilin asked with interest. What is the PY deal between a group of tortoises and magical witches? We have desert grapes there, but we don't know how to make juice. The desert demon came to teach us the technology. The price is that they need us to wear some spikes on Dragon Turtle, Ramos explained. When Shilin heard it, he acted, spiked. What kind of magic potion is it supposed to be? The magic talents of the desert witches are very good. In addition to some who know undead magic, some can make magic potions. It's just that the materials of magic potions are strange, and when the desert witch makes some magic potions, changed back to putting on a hat and cloak, and went to the human bazaar to sell magic potions. Except that her mouth is a little stubborn, the appearance of the desert demon girl is no different from ordinary people, and the double horns on her forehead can be put away. They are mixed in the human bazaar. If you have some luck, it is estimated that you can have a spring breeze with the desert demon girl. However, Shilin couldn't help shaking when he thought of the mouth of the demon girl in the desert. Do you remember where they went? Shilin put this question aside, and now the whereabouts of the desert demon is the most important thing. Remember, they went to the east. Vaguely remember that they said that the south was dangerous. Ramos told Shilin everything he knew. Shilin was amused as soon as he heard it. It turned out that the desert demon had already known about himself here. Just relying on the attacker wouldn't make the desert demon girl afraid, except for the giant dragon. It's no wonder that he hadn't seen the desert demon girl for so long. It seems that your majesty are interested in those desert demon girls. Ramos asked cautiously. Yeah, Shilin nodded. When Ramos heard that Shilin was interested, he immediately said, if you really want to look for the desert witch, your majesty, why not try sand dog? Sha dog, do you have one? Shilin's eyes lit up. The sand dog, as the name implies, is a dog in the desert, a dog with a high IQ but does not speak the lingua franca of the mainland. The sense of smell is extremely sensitive, even more powerful than that of the giant dragon Shilin. Even if the other party passed through that place a year ago, the sand dogs can smell the scent left behind by the other party. Of course, the premise is that you must let the sand dog smell the other person's body. Yes, it's in our toothy tribe, Ramos replied. Katerina, come to see the house. I'll go to the toothy tribe. Knowing where the sand dogs existed, Shilin was still staying, and immediately asked Katrina. Holding Olena in one hand and Ramos in the other, he flew straight towards the Fang Fang tribe. The attackers on the ground only saw a ball of fire flying towards the sky, leaving a group of fire behind, as if to burn the sky out of a hole. Why are you taking me again? Olena wanted to cry without tears. In fact, Shilin only regarded Olena as an item, a lucky lamb talent. Isn't that equivalent to bringing a lucky buff at any time? Feeling the whistling wind in her ears, Olena shivered again because of fear of heights. Ramos took a deep breath. The dragon was really terrifying. With just one hand, he could not move in his hand. What's wrong? Is it cold? Shilin clearly felt the movement of Leolina. No, no majesty, I'm a little afraid of heights. Olena tried her best to speak calmly. Fear, hi. Shilin was taken aback. There were still people in the Western fantasy continent who were afraid of heights. 10 minutes later, bang, a huge red dragon fell on the ground. Lead the way. Shilin put down Olena and Ramos in his hands. At this moment, Olena was so scared that her face was pale, as if a patient who was dying ill, without blood. Ramos nodded and led Shilin into the Fang Fang tribe. It looks like you have to exercise your fear of heights next time. Shilin glanced at Olena and said. What? No, Great Majesty, don't do this. Olena almost fainted when she heard it. She might as well kill her for fear of heights. Do you dare to refuse me? Shilin raised his brows. No, no, no. Olena's body suddenly stiffened, and what Shilin said was really scary. Within the Toothy tribe, Your Majesty the Great Red Dragon, why are you here? When Peeps landed in Shilin, he noticed Shilin's huge body, so he hurriedly came to Shilin and knelt on the ground. I heard that there are sand dogs here, have you seen it? Shilin looked down at this tribe from left to right, and Dragon Turtle in armor specially used weeds as a house. Life quality is much better than the attacker. Sharhound, yes, we found 15 sandhounds in a yard. Peeps replied respectfully. No, Your Majesty, Ramos added. We have not only 15 sandhounds, but 20 in my backyard. Well, take me to see. Shilin nodded. Ramos immediately led the way and took Shilin to his backyard. I have to say that Ramos will really enjoy it. Even though the raw material of the house is thatch, it is beautifully built, just like an ancient small palace. If you change the material, it will be a palace. Wow, wow, wow. The sand dogs seemed to feel some danger, and they all barked anxiously. It wasn't until Shilin's body came into view that all the sand dogs trembled with their tails clipped. Is this the sand dog? Shilin said. Sand dogs, with khaki skin all over, are about 3 meters long and about 1.2 meters high at the shoulders. It looks similar to an ordinary dog, but its eyes are even more permeating. Since you said that there is a sand dog, there must be something about a desert demon girl. Shilin said. Yes, Your Majesty. Ramos turned and hurried into the room, but took a veil out after a while. This is the veil of the desert demon. They left us. They said that if we still want to cooperate, we can let the sand dogs take us there. Ramos held the veil in front of Shilin with both hands and said. Shilin looked at the veil, and he smelled a strange smell on the veil. The smell is a bit like the jasmine fragrance of the previous life, but it feels a bit smelly. Smell the sand dogs, Shilin said, pointing to the sand dogs. As for the desert demon girl, Shilin had long wanted to catch one, so now that he had a little eyebrow, he was a little anxious. Ramos quickly took the veil and came to the sand dogs and hugged the sand dogs. Sidkashkakish 6JDJ, Ramos whispered in his mouth. This is a special language that allows sand dogs to know what they want to do. After speaking these words, Ramos swept the veil across each sand dog's nose one by one. Wow! After smelling the wound of the veil, the sand dog quickly yelled to the east. Ramos took out the rope he had prepared from behind and put it around sand dog's neck. Your Majesty, now we only need to follow the sand dog to find the desert demon girl. Ramos said. Well, peeps, you continue to organize and promise. Ramos, you walk underneath, and I will follow you in the sky. Shilin's dragon's wings fluttered and disappeared into the land, flying into the white clouds high in the sky. And Olena's lucky buff was naturally brought to the sky by Shilin. I said we have a great real dragon. Peeps raised his head proudly to Ramos. Ramos smiled bitterly and shook his head. I understand, now he is also my Majesty, the true dragon that I will follow. After that, Ramos took the sand dog and left here. I hope so, don't let me know that you have bad ideas. Peeps said, staring at Ramos's back. Open your eyes, the sky is not as scary as you think. Shilin said to Olena, who closed her eyes tightly. Olena closed her eyes and said in fear, No, Your Majesty, I think the heights are scary. Scary? Are you afraid of falling to death? Then I ask you, do you want to die in my hands, or just fall to death? Shilin thought of this interesting question. In your hands, it is an honor to die in your hands. Olena shouted. Compared to Shilin, Olena is now more afraid of this 10,000-meter high altitude. Shilin would like to say something about this. You, the incarnation of the goddess of luck, are still afraid of heights. The sand dog kept sniffing his nose, following the smell all the way. Ramos was holding on to the reins, for fear that the sand dogs would leave the rope and run out. Soon, after chasing for more than an hour, the sand dog stopped. What happened? Ramos crouched down in confusion, and asked with his ear close to the sand dog's mouth. Wong, Wong, Wong. The sand dog seemed to be communicating with Ramos. Why did you stop? Shilin used the sound transmission magic to communicate with Ramos. Now it's not easy for him to go down under this situation. Your Majesty, the great red dragon, the breath has disappeared. Ramos sighed. Hearing the disappearance of the breath, Shilin no longer hides and falls beside Ramos. After seeing that Olena finally landed, she sighed deeply, and the big rock in her heart finally fell. Ramos lowered his head and said like a kid who did something wrong, Sorry, Red Dragon, I let you down. Shilin ignored Ramos, but wondered why the sandhound would be lost. Didn't the desert demon say that Ramos should bring sand dogs to trade with them? Could it be that? Shilin had a guess in his heart. Now Hereto hide nowhere to hide. The manifest magic spit out from Shilin's mouth, and a covered road appeared in front of everyone. Wong. The sand dog also resumed tracking his breath at this moment. HMPH, as expected, she is a desert demon girl with magic talent. She has a lot of tricks and a lot of tricks. Shilin smiled contemptuously. The desert demon even covered the smell of own. But she may not know that there is still a magic that makes the breath disappear. In short, the desert girl is not good at learning. Continue chasing. Shilin flew high again, and Olena's heart jumped to her throat again. Oh, it's terrible. This time, the sand dogs did not stop, and continued to lead them for a long time. As if feeling something, the sand dog slowly stopped. Wow, Sand Dog whispered. Okay, I see. Ramos listened to Sand Dog's mouth. Because the sand dog sensed that the demon girl in the desert was nearby, he didn't dare to track it further. Your Majesty, Ramos just said. Shilin's voice appeared in his ears. I saw it, don't be surprised. Shilin, who was at an altitude of 10,000 meters, had long seen the desert demon girl. Desert witch, a humanoid species. The appearance is female, the skin on the body is light gray, with long yellow hair. There are 3 pairs of small fangs on both sides of the mouth, and the ears are horizontal like deer ears. The bones of the bridge of the nose are separated from the top to the 2 sides, and a pair of curved black horns grow. The decoration on the body is very cool. The concave convex body basically only covers the important parts, and there are 1 or 2 bottles of medicine hanging on the waist. At this moment, from a high-altitude field of vision, Shilin saw 2 desert enchantresses hiding around Ramos. Armored dragon turtle Ramos, how did you find this place? A desert demon voluntarily jumped out and asked. It's not that your magic is not good. You didn't completely cover up the smell. Now you have been found. The desert demon girl next to her smirked. They are a pair of sisters, named Aisha and Aili. Aisha was not convinced. Pay attention to your attitude, Aili, you are little sister. Little sister. Then ask big sis to explain why Ramos relied on the sand dog to catch up. Ali snorted. Ramos looked at the 2 quarrelsome sisters and asked, didn't you last time you said that you would rely on sand dogs for a trade? Why did you hide your breath in the end? Not long after I left, I realized that I didn't need the next cooperation, so I hid my breath. How did you catch up? The Aisha team Ramos is full of curiosity. How did this dragon turtle keep up? You know, dragon turtle is not good at magic. And Aisha is extremely confident in own magic. Naturally it is impossible to suspect that there is a problem with her magic. Me, I naturally have my way, but you don't say anything about credibility. Ramos saw that His Majesty did not intend to show up, so he prepared to hold the 2 enchantresses first. Our desert demon is more life-saving than credibility. Now that you know that we are not cooperating, then go back. Aisha and Aili had already touched the potion bottle with their hands. Desert banshees are very vigilant, they are terribly dead. Heaven, Shilin flew around and found that there was indeed no other banshee hiding behind him. I am coming. Shilin was like a falling fireball, burning the flames all over his body and falling away. Olena in her hand was specially surrounded by a magic hood, so that she was not burned by the flame. Big sis. Aili quickly sensed the movement above her head, and finally saw something when she looked up. It was a falling meteorite. What? As soon as Aisha raised her head, Shilin arrived. Boom. The 2 sisters were thrown off by the sudden impact, and even the magic potions hanging from their waists rolled to the ground. Big sis. Ali shook the sand on her head and quickly got up and picked up Aisha to leave. Where do you want to go? A loud and majestic voice came from outside the sky and surrounded the ears of the 2 sisters. This is Red Dragon. Aisha looked at the tall and stalwart body, staring at Shilin with blank eyes. Impossible. Isn't he in the south? Aili couldn't believe it even more. Obviously they had seen Shilin in the south. Sure enough, you have noticed me a long time ago. Shilin looked at the 2 sisters of the desert banshee playfully. Aisha regained her consciousness and swallowed. No wonder Ramos could find them. It turned out that there was a dragon behind him, the red dragon, the first of the 5 color dragons. Great, giant dragons, we are just 2 humble desert banshees, how can he give you your gaze? Aili quickly knelt on the ground, praying that Shilin would let them go. Because they know very well that no one can escape under the eyes of the dragon. How can? Shilin laughed and said, I don't care about you 2, I care about whether you 2 have a map. Map. The 2 banshees were shocked. When did the dragon's nose become so sensitive? Oh, it looks like you do have a map on your body. Shilin noticed the banshee's expression, and it was indeed on both of them to look at the map in this way. I was so lucky that the 2 people I caught had really broken maps on them. Great dragon, we traded maps to humans as early as a month ago. Aisha said tremblingly. What they said is true. Your Majesty, no one dared to lie in front of the dragon, what they said should be true. Ramos said next to him. If anyone dares to lie in front of the dragon, it must be another dragon, not a lowly desert banshee. The trade was given to humans, where did you trade it? Shilin couldn't just give up the incomplete map because of this. He must get a map, otherwise this trip to the desert will basically come in vain. The small market at the human border. Aisha and I said in unison. Shilin's terrifying vertical eyes looked straight at the two desert banshee sisters. Tell me, where is the human market? We can lead the way. Aisha and I hurriedly said. They don't want to die, they are only 100 years old. They have just lived to 1/5 the age of the desert banshee. The lifespan of the desert banshee is quite high, generally reaching 500 years old. Among them, if the desert banshee uses other methods to prolong her life, she can live longer. Your Majesty, let's go back and assemble the army quickly now to capture that small human bazaar. Ramos said excitedly. Humans. They have not eaten humans for a long time. Humans are rumored to be very tender and juicy. And Olena in Shilin's hands did not dare to think about it. No, you go back and tell Katrina, I'm going to do something, and Noxus will be in charge of her. During my absence, be sure to give me conquer this desert. Shilin can't wait, it's just a small human market. With the body and strength of being close to the young dragon, it is too simple to conquer this bazaar. If you go back and form an army, it will definitely waste a lot of time. What if the human holding the map disappears? Besides, a month has passed since the transaction of the desert banshee. Yes, since His Majesty said so, Ramos was not good to continue to persuade him, turned around and took the sand dog back. You show me the way. Shilin grabbed the two desert banshees in one hand and flew high into the sky. When Olena saw these two desert banshees, she felt a little comfort, and now she finally had two equal treatments. At this time, the two sisters wanted to cry without tears. How could they be caught by the dragon somehow? Knowing that the dragon's goal is the map, how could they change the map? Most importantly, the two sisters also guessed one thing, and they lost it. When I got the map from the desert banshee sacrifice, no matter how I studied it, I found that it was nothing more than a piece of parchment. So the two sisters simply went to the market to fool people and traded the map. As a result, the giant dragon had deliberately let the two of them lead the way for the map. Now you don't need to guess it. The thing that can make the dragon's heart touch, it is definitely not a mortal thing. They are losing out. Where to go now? This was the first time Shilin flew at such a fast speed, just to get the incomplete map of the desert palace. Go there, Aisha pointed weakly. Booming. The raging fire burned on Shilin, like a fireball across the sky, dividing the blue sky into two. Desert banshee picture. According to the two sisters Aisha and Aili, they walked for more than half a month before reaching the border of the human bazaar. Desert banshees don't eat people, they prefer to make deals with people. But if someone encounters them in the desert banshee will kill the human without hesitation, so as not to expose own whereabouts. Hearing from Aisha, the human bazaar is a small town, which is under the control of a mayor and does not belong to any country. All pedestrians coming and going will trade in that bazaar, or as a place of temporary rest. They didn't understand the mystery of the map at first, so they thought it was a fake. After going to the human bazaar, he boasted that this is a treasure map. It just needs a special method to see it. It's a pity that the people who trade here are not fools. How could they believe the one-sided words of the desert banshee? Originally, Aisha and I were about to leave, but they didn't expect it. The mayor, who had never met before, bought the treasure for a total of 10 gold coins. 100 copper coins are equal to 1 silver coin, and 100 silver coins are equal to 1 gold coin. And 10 silver coins are enough for an average family of 4 to spend a year. One can imagine how valuable gold coins are. At that time, Aisha and Aili both mocked the mayor as a fool in their hearts. A map that didn't know whether it was true or false was willing to spend so much money. But now it seems that they are the real fools. That map is likely to be a real treasure map, and the treasure made the dragons greedy. You really know how to trade. Didn't the priest who gave you the map say anything? Shilin sneered. No, the priest was our aunt. She said she was going to die, so this map should be given to us. Let us keep it safe and don't lose it. Aisha is still a little embarrassed when she talks about it. Who tells them they like to be cheap? Great dragon, can you let us go after we go to the market? Aili asked poorly. Now everything is not important. What is important is that it is important to keep your life under the hand of the dragon. Let you go. That's impossible. There just happens to be no magician among my family members. Shilin's meaning is already very clear. Either join me or die. Really, Your Majesty. In fact, we have been admiring you for a long time, but we have never been able to find the opportunity to join your Red Dragon Empire. Ellie and Aisha are not stupid. Why are they going to die if they can live? Although the desert banshee yearns for freedom, but the premise is not to die. Besides, there is nothing wrong with joining the Red Dragon Empire. With such a powerful red dragon as the backing, isn't it going to walk sideways in the Death Desert? Really, Shilin chuckled. If these two female demons really wanted to join them, they would have come to him as early as a month ago. But since everyone understands it, there is no need to expose it. Yes, Your Majesty Red Dragon. We are willing to follow you forever, and you will be with us. The two sisters quickly made an oath. They were really afraid of death. Humph. Olenna snorted softly when she heard the experiment of these two people. Isn't it just being afraid of Your Majesty the Red Dragon? I really don't wanting face. Now Olenna seems to have forgotten. She also joined Shilin out of fear. Noxus. Big brother went to the human border market. Katarina frowned. Yes, Your Majesty Katarina, Your Majesty Red Dragon said that during his absence, you were the master of Noxus. Ramos' breathing was a bit short, but in order to pass on information, he ran back all the way frantically. I see. Catalina didn't doubt the truth or falsehood of Ramos' words. In her opinion, the big brother was so powerful that no one could kill him. Since Big Brother has safely handed Noxus to me, then I will not let him down. Katarina has a great plan to conquer this Death Desert before Shilin returns. Now the southern and northern sides of the Death Desert are occupied by Noxus, and Noxus flagpoles are inserted. Only the east and west are not there yet, and there are other races living there. Ramos, how much power does your toothy tribe have that can fight? Catalina asked. Ramos immediately replied. There are more than 800 dragon turtle armored, and the remaining 200 are mothers and children. Adding the 500 attackers, there are more than 1,300 combat power. Katarina feels that the number of people is still small. If you want to conquer the entire Death Desert, the number of people must at least double. After all, he was a young silver dragon, not the metamorphosis of Shilin who was a young dragon in 3 years. I have to go through a period of deep sleep and cannot go to the battlefield personally at any time. Which is the weakest tribe in the east or west? Katarina decided to attack the weakest tribe first, and then merge that tribe, so that the possibility of conquering the desert would be greater. West, Ramos said. As the overlord of the north, Ramos knows more about the Death Desert than Peeps. On the west is the Sandworm tribe, formed by a group of magical beasts of all kinds, and on the east is the Spangtooth tribe, a tribe of desert werewolves. Ramos tells Katrina about the great tribe of the Death Desert. Desert werewolf, a kind of werewolf that lives in the desert. There are several kinds of werewolves on the western fantasy continent, the timberwolves in the forest, and the frost werewolves in the cold. Next to the volcano or lava werewolves, and in the desert are desert werewolves. It can be said that the werewolf is a bit like Ibrahimovic, and can evolve depending on the environment. The werewolves on the western fantasy continent are very powerful and very good at team combat. A werewolf tribe capable of occupying the east, to say less there are 2,000 werewolves, this is the result of the smallest werewolves. Go and occupy the Sandworm tribe first, and come after the Wolfang tribe of the werewolves. Catalina also understood that this is not the time to attack the werewolf tribe. There are too many opponents, and the werewolf's claws have piercing damage, and she is surrounded by 1,000 werewolves at the same time, and she is very likely to fall. This is also the reason why the dragon needs family members and is outnumbered. East of Death Desert, werewolves, so many werewolves. Shilin happened to pass by the desert werewolf territory, and he actually saw many werewolves, estimated to be more than 4,000. Your Majesty, this is the Wolfang tribe in the east, controlling the entire east of the Death Desert. Aisha took the initiative to introduce the Wolfia tribe to Shilin. As a desert banshee, it was a living map in the desert, and they had secretly observed all tribes, large and small. That's it, I have a chance to attack here. Shilin became interested in the Wolfia tribe below. If the Wolfang tribe can be conquered, the Death Desert will be truly unified. 1 dragon, 1 female and 2 banshees have been flying in the sky for nearly a week. 1 week later, Shilin finally saw this human border market in the desert. The buildings here are made of wood, and the style of the buildings is very similar to that of European towns. A long fence was built from the clods of soil, enclosing the town safely. Rows of armored soldiers stood on the fence, and 2 guards stood at the entrance of the town. The streets are full of pedestrians coming and going, as well as stall owners and vendors shouting. Your Majesty, the mayor lives in the tallest house in the center. We will help you get the map back right away. Li in Shilin's hands said. Shilin's size is too big. If he lowers his height, he will definitely be seen by the guards. In order not to startle the snake, the 2 sisters decided to get the map back by themselves, which can be regarded as a surrender to Shilin. Trouble, a group of prawns, soldiers and crabs, just rushed down directly. Shilin said with disdain. Even with the strength of being close to the young dragon, even cowering, is he still a red dragon? How could the red dragon be so persuaded? As long as there are no 10 5-ring magicians underneath, Shilin is absolutely invincible. And how could there be such a powerful magician in the messy bazaar? Go, Walls Town. You are absolutely crazy, Chajal. How can this piece of torn sheepskin be the treasure of death? A magician wearing a blue cloak and holding a curved magic wand shook his head. His name is Moose, a 4-ring magician, who was invited by the mayor of Chagilt to protect the town of Vals with a lot of money. His salary is 100 gold coins a year. A month ago, Tekara said that he used 10 gold coins to buy the treasure map of the god of death. Moose thought that Chajir was crazy. Just a piece of torn sheepskin, you actually said it was the treasure of death. At first, Moose thought that the sheepskin used some special way to hide the map, but after studying for a month, he discovered that this was just a piece of ordinary sheepskin. As a result, Chajil did not believe it alive and well. Every day he begged Moose to try again to see if he could make the map on the parchment appear. This is definitely a real moose, according to the news left by my ancestors. The legendary treasure of the god of death is hidden in the Death Desert, and the map is in the hands of the Desert Banshee. The 2 people were the Desert Demon last time, you said that. Chajil said. Chajil, the mayor of the town of Walls, a 44-year-old middle-aged man, at this moment he is already covered with gray hair. There are too many things to do in the town, which directly makes Chajir senile prematurely. As a result, just as I was about to die young, the treasure map of the god of death appeared. The treasure of the god of death in the legend may contain the secret of immortality. Listen to Chagir, those 2 are indeed desert banshees, and I used magic to sense the aura on them. But they are just fooling you. Since this is the treasure of death, why are they selling it? Moose hopes that Chagir will be more sober, and the Death Desert cannot have a treasure of death. If so, the people injured in the Western Fantasy continent would have been robbing them wildly. Maybe they don't know, Chajil said unwillingly. I have to say that Chajil really guessed the truth, and the 2 sisters Aisha and Li did sell this parchment as an ordinary object. The map is kept by the Desert Banshee. How could they not know? Well, Chajie, I'm tired. Moose no longer wants to argue with Chagir, even though they are the relationship between the employer and the mercenary. But because Moose is a 4-ring mage, even Chagir must respect him. I understand. Zagir nodded in loss, put away the parchment and prepared to leave. Roar! A dragon chant from the sky penetrated everyone's ears and echoed in their ears. Then a huge figure landed in the center of the town. Boom! The earth shook for a while, and the surrounding houses instantly turned into slag. Countless people were rushed by this wave of air, and fell to the ground severely. This is Dragon, Giant Dragon. It's not good. The dragon is here. The great goddess of life is here. Bless me not to die. Mother. The pedestrians who were originally busy on the street panicked one by one after hearing Long Yin. At this moment, they hate to grow a leg and run into the wooden house. Although it is useless, it can bring them a sense of security. This is the dragon. Moose and Chajil stared at each other with wide open eyes, and said in the same way. But in such a barren desert town, why do dragons come here? Unfortunately, there was not enough time for them to think, so Moose quickly picked up the magic wand and rushed out. Chajil hurriedly stuffed the parchment into his clothes and stumbled out. When the 2 came to take outside, they saw a red dragon with a red body entering their eyes. The soldiers on the fence and in the street put on armors and took up weapons to wrap the Shilin Tuan Tuan, looking full of momentum. In fact, Everyone's legs were shaking, and their weapons were about to drop from their hands. Ellie, Aisha, and Olena were released by Shilin. At this moment, everyone was watching Shilin's dazzling body quietly, and no one dared to act rashly, for fear of being taken as the first target by the dragon. Moose looked at Shilin in horror. How could a dragon arrive? If there are other good dragon species, Moose still thinks it might be possible to discuss it. What came now turned out to be the red dragon, the head of the five-color dragon. This is the chaotic and evil Dage. Chajal felt that the sky was about to fall. Is it possible that the small town of Walls, which has a history of more than 500 years, will be destroyed today? I'm sorry ancestors. The hard-working town is going to die. Where is your mayor? Shilin asked, looking around. Shilin didn't care at all about the humans who surrounded him around him. They would lose their own dragon scales if they could break open their own dragon scales. Mayor. After everyone heard Shilin's words, they all looked at Chajir subconsciously. Why did the red dragon find the mayor by name and surname? Was the red dragon brought in by the mayor? It seems that you are the mayor. Shilin followed everyone's gaze and saw the middle-aged man with white hair. Chajie swallowed. Although he didn't know why Honglong was looking for himself, he still knew some rules. The great red dragon, why did you come to the town of Walls? You have seen it. Besides sand, it is sand. Chajal bent down humbly and said with his fingers pointing to the surrounding sandy environment. Sand, I have no interest in such a broken place. Boom. Zillinlong's tail casually flicked, and a wooden house more than 10 meters high collapsed, turned into wood dregs and fell to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. The eyes of many soldiers were confused, causing sand in their mouths and noses, but they dared not speak. Then you come here. Chajal thought of a lot of things. Legend has it that dragons like to eat fresh and juicy humans the most. Could this red dragon come to eat? Moose next to him squeezed the magic wand tightly. If the red dragon moved his hand, he would definitely use magic without saying a word. It's just that this magic is not used to attack Shilin, but to teleport himself away. I'm not interested in cannibalism. I heard from my dependents that you got a map from them. Shilin glanced down at Aisha and Ailey. At this time, Chajal and Moose discovered the two sisters. It's them. Chajir and Moose looked at each other, surprised. At the same time, Moose was even more shocked. Red Dragon personally came to ask for a map. Isn't it true that the map is true? Aisha pointed to Chajal and said, Your Majesty, he bought the map from us with 10 gold coins. You here, hand in the map. Shilin looked at Chajie directly. Those two huge scarlet eyes stared at Chajir, and Chajir saw the underworld at this moment. Chajal reached into his clothes with a trembling right hand, and took out the parchment he had just studied. As soon as the parchment was taken out, Shilin could smell the special breath on the parchment. It was the unique spirit of spiritual qi. This parchment was touched by a real god. Hand it over, Shilin said lightly. Zackle looked at the parchment in his hand. He was really unwilling to hand it over. The red dragon in front of him wanted so much, that means that there was no deceit on own ancestors, and the legend is true. This is really a map leading to the treasure of death. But no matter how unwilling he was, Shilin's existence made him unable to raise any resistance. Lord Great Dragon, if I offer this parchment, would you spare the town of Walls? Chajir looked at Shilin with pitiful and pleading eyes. He didn't want to lose money. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.